Well, Happy New Year. Welcome to the Cybersecurity Whisper for the week of January 5th, 2025. It's hard to believe. I want to start off the week with some information about a hack that occurred on Christmas Day. There's many articles about how the bad guys love to target holidays and weekends when they know that typically companies have a very, very lean skeleton crew on their cyber team and their security operations center. And this was new details emerging about a phishing campaign that was targeting Chrome browser extensions developers that led to the compromise of at least 35 extensions. And they injected data stealing code, including those from cybersecurity firm Cyberhaven. And kudos to Cyberhaven. They have been very transparent about the incident, and I think they are the ones that actually found it in the other companies. So, again, initial reports focused on Cyberhaven's security-focused extension. Subsequent investigations revealed that the same code had been injected into at least 35 extensions collectively used by over 2.6 million people. And, there were reports on LinkedIn and Google groups from targeted developers. And the latest campaign, it started around December 5th, but earlier command and control subdomains have been found as far back as March of 2024. And so here's how the attack happens. It begins with a phishing email sent to Chrome extension developers directly or through a support email associated with their domain. And then the phishing email, of course, appears to come from Google. And it claims that the extension is in violation of the Chrome Web Store policies and it's at risk of being removed. And, then the developer is led to believe that their software's description contains misleading information and they must agree to the Chrome Store web policies. And so if they click on the embedded Go To Policy button that's in the phishing email and, just trying to understand what they violated, well, of course, they're taken to a legitimate login page on Google's domain, but for a malicious OAuth application. So the page is part of Google's standard, authentication flow designed for securely granting permissions to third-party apps to access specific Google account resources. And on that platform, the attacker hosted a malicious OAuth application named Privacy Policy Extension, of course. And that asked the victim to grant permission to manage Chrome Web Store extensions through their account. And when you allow this access, the privacy policy extension will be able to see, edit, update, or publish your Chrome Web Store extensions, themes, apps, and licenses you have access to. Well, in multi-factor, MFA didn't help in this case either because direct approvals and OAuth authentication flows aren't required, and the process assumes the user fully understands the scope of permissions they're granting. So, again, if you hover over the link in the phishing email, well, it actually did take you to Google's legitimate page, but the full link also then had a link to install this malicious Chrome extension, not just the privacy policy of the one that supposedly was in violation. So again, just more training on if you get those emails, log directly into your Google Chrome admin portal and go to the messages there and see if it was listed instead of clicking on the links in the emails. Still very sophisticated and very targeted. Now, for the first time in many, many years, the Department of Health and Human Services has proposed HIPAA Security Rule updates. And as usual, and probably since the beginning of HIPAA, these new mandates could be difficult and costly for many entities. And this is really a massive renovation of the rule, the first major update in more than 2 decades. And among its proposals is to convert some high-level recommendations, such as deploying encryption and MFA, into actual requirements. So they were suggestions before. Now they're going to make them required. Again, low-hanging fruit. A lot of them probably already should have been from a best practice standpoint. They're really saying it's a fundamental rewrite of the security rule and an overall change in the entire direction of the rule. It goes from really process-oriented, that was designed to allow the enormous variety of entities subject to the rule really to be able to adopt appropriate procedures for their specific situation, to a much more regimented overall approach. So unfortunately they're having to tighten it down because giving that leeway hasn't done well. We continue to have a massive number of healthcare providers get hacked and ransomed. So the long list of proposals include much more specificity about how to conduct security risk analysis, The regulators are saying that the industry performance of risk analysis has long been really a weakness and a point often made during these breach investigations and compliance audits. The proposal would also require regulated firms to prepare an annual technology asset inventory and network map and require business associates to verify at least once a year that they have deployed technical safeguards required by the rule. And any org regulated by HIPAA would have to establish written procedures to restore the loss of relevant information systems and data within 72 hours. Again, I think even that can be, many covered entities and business associates have plans to restore access to data, of course, just as soon as possible is what's in there. But in reality, it can sometimes take orgs much longer to restore data because of all kind of unforeseen issues. And implementing a 72-hour requirement, it's really not realistic for most covered entities, I would say for most companies. And as it can take longer than that to even confirm that an incident is contained, and if access to systems is restored too quickly, of course, there's a risk of a second infection or incident happening. It also calls for updates for vulnerability scanning at least every 6 months and pen testing at least once every 12 months. It's always talked about network segmentation, and it mandates separate technical controls for backup and recovery of EPHI, or the electronic, protected health information. Moving on to some Microsoft news. Probably, you would start to suspect this, but Microsoft is really, they had at their security conference that they just had back in December as well. They talk about that we need to, they're going to get rid of Active Directory. They haven't said when. They said it would be at least probably 3 years. But they're encouraging groups to ditch your hybrid setup and go intra only. So again, with AI being top of mind for nearly everything Microsoft is doing these days, and they really want you to also strive to attain a goal that's not as easily obtained, and that's, again, intra joined only. So no more Active Directory, no more traditional domain, no more hybrid. Instead, your devices would join, Intra, formerly Azure AD, natively, and then they would be integrated into Microsoft's cloud-based directory service for centralized management, authentication, and security. This is certainly a major shift from hybrid join setups, which many of us have relied on in the past, in which, of course, your workstations connect both to Intra resources as well as your traditional Active Directory domain controllers, and others connect to an AD domain and online resources such as hosted mail, SharePoint, OneDrive. And Microsoft's intention is to have customers, transition to an Intra-only join. This was again revealed at the Ignite conference, and so certainly it's going to be impactful for all of us, but it is the right thing to do. And so as soon as you can get off of Active Directory, the better. Now, as we start the new year, many companies may have tightened their budget, may not have a budget. And so we wanted to give you 7 ways that you can, save money, or if you have a tight budget, that you can still be successful as a security leader. And the first is just to establish or improve your governance. Again, that's typically only requires time, policies, procedures, auditing, and it's the non-sexy things. But usually that doesn't require any funds. Certainly you can go buy a governance risk compliance system if you've got the money, but most folks rely on the spreadsheets and maybe even some automation. The second thing is to optimize and rationalize. Again, looking at your tools, doing a tools inventory and assessing whether existing tools are used to their fullest potential, and if not, how they can be optimized to strengthen security and so that they deliver more value without adding new costs to your budget. Third is implementing more automation and AI. Even if you think about one of the examples was given of even the security surveys that you may get from outside third parties. How can you automate those? There's companies that have used, MongoDB, other type tools, and written some chatbots and different things with ChatGPT to help automate those surveys. And, once you get an answer, being able to apply it across all of them that are similar. And so that's certainly a help there that might, not require any additional budget, just you and your team's time. Increasing scrutiny of vendor contracts is number 4. Again, it just takes time reading through those, feeding them all into an AI engine like ChatGPT, comparing them, following up on them more frequently, getting the evidence to prove that the third parties are doing what they're contractually bound to do. The 5th is to automate security questionnaires and third-party vetting processes. We talked about that already just under general AI and automation. Here's one, of course, this would require more budget to save, but a lot of initiatives do that. Initially, we'll have more upfront, but then you'll be able to save over the years. And this is if you're able to hire a full-time FinOps engineer, they can really help come on and they understand the technical aspects. They can help you scrutinize spending. They can see if you're over licensed, if you're not using the reserved compute, different instances, whether it be in Azure, AWS, Google, GCP. Again, really scrutinize your spending, look at every invoice that's going out and making sure that you are optimizing that you've renewed at optimal leverage or taking advantage of buying power, maybe through different co-ops or partnerships that you're a part of. And then finally, enlisting employees to become security champions. This is, if you say you don't have enough security folks, being able to reach out to other departments, find those folks that are always, sending you an email, always asking you questions, always engaging on chat and Microsoft Teams and in Slack. And even though they may be in accounting or payroll or human resources or another department, they have really a good understanding of security and the security processes. Make them a security champion. Give them a badge for their email signature or something that they can put, and use them to vet these new governance processes that you put in and other tools, and have them from an outside perspective look at your budget and see if it looks streamlined to them. So take advantage of that. And with that, again, we hope you have a great kickoff to your new year, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.